Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. We are back, and we are super excited about a brand new 2024 football season for Oklahoma State, coming off of the Big 12 title game last year. Lots of experience. Bringing in my co-host for the second season. It was a lot of fun last year. Chase Witwiska that you're seeing on the screen. Chase, a lot of excitement brewing around Oklahoma State football this year.
Yeah, man, as there should be, just with the depth, and then returning 18 or 19 starters. I can't remember the exact number, but that's significant. So I think that you're going to see a lot of what you saw last year, but a more polished and improved version to start out this season. So I'm looking forward to it.
What has excited you the most over the offseason? What stories have you followed? What's piqued your interest? I know usually like about July. We love baseball, so it's a great time for us. But July and then early August, it can be kind of a dead time, basically after college baseball is over. So what's kept your attention over the offseason?
You know, just the consistency, I guess you can say. You know, I think everybody was kind of holding their breath a little bit last year, right after the season was over. You have to get guys to recommit. So Ollie Gordon, obviously, that was a big one. Alan Bowman is coming back. I think that's a great thing because you have a year of experience under his belt. Brennan Presley, Colin Oliver, Nick Martin. I could go on and on about so many freaking different names.
The entire offensive line.
Exactly. That's huge. You know, and that definitely kept my interest. Even, you know, I kept up with him during the spring and was like, hey, I wonder who's going to be healthy. Justin Wright, he's coming back. He's going to be healthy this year, so I think he's going to play some snaps. Kendall Daniels moved to the linebacker position, which I think is pretty interesting, but I think it's better fitting for him. He's kind of a more physical presence. I think he's better off in that role than probably a defensive back role. And listening to press conferences and things like that, they're trying to prepare him for the NFL. He's not going to be a safety in the NFL. If he's going to play in the NFL, it's going to be down probably within the box, maybe an invert kind of deal. But I think they're doing the right thing there too.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. So Oklahoma State, hey, this is a program to where it seems like every time we have a season like this, and I can tell you there's a lot of hype for this 2015 or for this 2024 season. I say 2015 because a lot of people are comparing this offense to that offense back then, and that's a pretty high bar to set. But hey, there's a lot of buzz. It just seems like, you know, there's a very difficult non-con schedule. You're starting with the national champion last year that went 15-0 and undefeated. They have a head coach that's never lost a game at South Dakota State. They have a quarterback that's returning that was had a quarterback rating that was just ridiculous last year. Mark Gronowski that we're talking about. Matter of fact, his quarterback rating was right at 180 last year.
Wow.
Almost a 70% completion rate, and had only 5 interceptions to 29 touchdowns. So this is a program that is used to winning. It's kids that don't know anything other than winning. I know it's 1AA. Oklahoma State starts slow under Mike Gundy. They've had last year they did it. I mean, just last year. So they've had a propensity to start late. And then also this program, it seems like when there's been a lot of hype coming into the season, sometimes those have been a big disappointment. So, hey, walk me off that ledge.
You know, I think this year, I hope this year is going to be different, and I think it will be, just because I think you have, just with how many returners you have coming back, they fit the culture. They know what it's about. They played in big games. They played in games that probably aren't as meaningful. But I think they also realized with the new look of the Big 12, kind of what position that they're in. They're no longer kind of that, you know, the third, you know, that third guy or the stepbrother or the whatever that they used to be. In my opinion, I think they're at the very top. I think it's them, Utah, and Kansas State would be my 3 guesses as to who's going to kind of run the Big 12 from here on out. And I think that those guys realize that. You get the leadership qualities back with your 3 big offensive guys in Brennan Presley, Ollie Gordon, and then Alan Bowman. And then obviously, like I said, you've got Colin Oliver coming back. You have Nick Martin, who's a little bit more experienced now. Brandon Epps is another guy that I think he's going to be really, really good this year. I think you're going to see improvement from him. So a lot of these guys have gotten experience that they not I don't know if they've come back with this much experience in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, Rashad Owens.
Yep.
And then I think a guy that people are massively overlooking, I think he was the Cowboys' best receiver when he went down to injury last year, is Des Stribling. I think Deshaun Stribling is going to have a huge year playing off of the running game that the Cowboys have with Ollie Gordon. The fact that one thing, we talked about this last year when it happened, when they had the quarterback battle. Here's the problem with playing multiple quarterbacks. And this is a big problem that no amount of coaching can get around. So when you're a quarterback and you know you're steeped within a quarterback battle, when it's 3rd down and 7 and you run a play and nobody's open, instead of just throwing the ball away and punting, you feel like you have to do something to put points on the board. Otherwise, you might not get to play again, right? So you force the ball in there, and next thing you know, it's an interception. It's a turnover. So the second that Alan Bowman was awarded quarterback, he even said it. He said it to Dave Hunziker in their talk Wednesday night. He joined for the radio show that if your worst play just gets you back to 0, then that's not a bad thing at all. So I think the fact that he was awarded the starting job last year, coming into the offseason, he knows the offense better. He knows that throwing the ball away and making it 2nd and 10 is okay because he's going to be the quarterback even if they go 3 or 4 series in a row and don't score. And then he's also learned that turnovers are not good at all. So I'm excited about that aspect from Alan Bowman.
Yeah, man, I am too. I think that you see a jump. You're going to see a jump in performance too. Last year was obviously a little shaky at the beginning. If you go back to our last year's videos, I was saying that Gunnar Gundy should have been the starting quarterback.
He had outperformed him probably to that point.
I had thought so,
yeah.
But I think in the long run, I think they made the right decision because if you look at what he did, for example, against OU, huge game. Their approach to OU's approach to that game was let's stop Ollie Gordon and make Alan Bowman beat us, and he did.
Yeah.
He beat him. He threw for 300 and something yards. He had a really, really good football game. You can't ignore experience, and he's been there and done that for 36 years in NCAA football. So I think in the long run they made the right decision. And like I said, I think you're going to see a better version of him and him be more of himself this year than he did last.
South Dakota State ranked number 1 in some FCS Division II polls, coming off the national title. We said undefeated season, returned 28 seniors, returned 9 all-conference players, and that includes their quarterback. And anytime you have a quarterback in Mark Gronowski that will play in the NFL, many people think, and then you have all these other experienced guys, I don't care what level you're playing on now, they're not going to have as many good players. So I think it's going to behoove Oklahoma State if they came out and played fast and forced South Dakota State to play like 90 to 95, maybe 100 plays on defense. I think that would wear them down faster. I think that would behoove Oklahoma State. So they're not going to have as many players. But, hey, these guys have a lot of players that can do damage to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and they have a winning culture. And a winning culture is it plays a huge role in any sport. If you have a winning culture and you're used to winning, one thing that I was listening to earlier is like if you take them, if it's a close game going into the 4th quarter, you may be in trouble. Like you may be. Well,
look at Montana State last week. I know it's New Mexico,
right?
But they made all the right plays down the stretch to win that game because they're used to winning, right?
Right, absolutely. And and South Dakota State is more than capable of competing at the FBS level. And that's I have no question about that. With that winning culture, and then with on top of that, just them, they know they're good. They know what they're capable of, and they're coming in here with something to prove. To Oklahoma State, it's like, hey man, it's our week 1 game. We have a chance at a conference title, a chance at the college football playoff. To me, I think that South Dakota State is like, hey, this is just as big as one of our national championship games, because if they go in and beat a nationally ranked FBS team, that puts them in big lights, you know, and they're going to get national attention, which is what they want. So they're definitely going to have some ammunition coming into Stillwater.
They absolutely are. So I say all that just to make sure that you give the absolute proper amount of respect to the opponent, of which South Dakota State, they deserve every single bit of praise that you can give them. Having said that, Oklahoma State is going to have better players. They're going to have more better players. They have maybe more experience than South Dakota State has. They're at home, and it's going to be in front of a sellout on what it's going to be. I think Saturday is going to be maybe like high 70s, low 80s.
Yeah,
it's going to be
awesome.
Absolutely gorgeous. Boone Pickens Stadium is going to be rocking, and Mike Gundy is scared to death of South Dakota State. And when Mike Gundy is scared to death of an opponent, he gets his team attention, and when he gets his team's attention, that usually spells good things for Oklahoma State. So I think the fact that South Dakota State is so good, and that Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, they've been telling their players, hey, guys, this team hasn't lost in like 20-some-odd games. I don't know exactly how many games it is. Y'all better play or you're going to lose this game. And then you have experience at quarterback. I think they're going to get Oklahoma State's best shot.
Yeah, I do too. I don't have any question about it. You know, I think it's different than a South Alabama or UCA that you saw last year. They would, and I'm talking South Dakota State, would have spanked both teams last year. And if OSU, God forbid, if they play like they did against Central Arkansas or South Alabama, they're going to get ran. And it's not even going to be close. And it's going to be a really... Of
course, you hadn't even settled on Ollie or Alan Bowman at that point of the season last year, right?
And that's a little different. Obviously, you've got a guy that is more than capable of being in New York at the end of the season, and then you've got a 20. I think he's 23 or 24 years old, and Alan Bowman. Like I said, he's been there and done that for a long time. But one thing that I've kind of noticed about him and his mentality and his presence is he is a leader. People follow him, and he's a good leader. He's not a me guy. He's about Oklahoma State. He's about Oklahoma State football. He's about the culture. He fits in really well here. He fits in really, really well. And like I said, with not having that at the beginning of the season, even towards the end of the season, I don't know if he fully grasped that role because of what happened at the beginning, if that makes sense. So he was still working his way into that. And you saw Oklahoma State's potential. I wouldn't even say their full potential against teams like Oklahoma. And then towards the end of the season, you saw them play really good
football. Who won that game, by the way?
Oklahoma State.
Oh, did they? Okay. I couldn't remember. I needed a reminder.
It was a good one. It was a fun one to end on.
Sure was.
But no, man, like I said, I think that he's been finally able to settle into a role, and he's been able to do that since last spring or last fall. So now he's had a full spring and he's had a full fall camp to be like, hey, this is my team. You know, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to be about, and this is how we're going to roll.
I think there's times in the past I've been one of the most vocal people in terms of Mike Gundy getting a little bit too comfortable at times, getting a little bit too loose-lipped, getting a little bit too defensive with fans and all that kind of stuff. I think the transfer portal has taken guys like Mike Gundy, who their job is secure. They're never going to get fired. I mean, it would take something miraculous to get them fired, that type of deal. But I think it's taking guys like that and put a kind of a natural, I don't know if you want to kind of put like a boundary around them that they have to be a certain way. They have to be their best version, because if not, all your best players are going to leave.
Right.
You know, like if you're Mike Gundy and you don't know your players' names, or you're wearing shirts that you have every right to wear, but then it's going to piss off half your team, right? If you're doing stuff like that, then they're going to transfer out. You're going to go 4-7, 4-8, something like that, and it's not going to be good. So I think the transfer portal has held coaches accountable and forced coaches like Mike Gundy to be their best versions. And when Mike Gundy's at his best version, he's maybe the best coach in college football.
I would 100% agree with that. You know, and to see him go from when all of this first happened, he was very anti. He didn't like the portal. He didn't like the NIL. But to see to see how much he's come along and how much he's grown within just the last few years has been a lot of fun, in my opinion. I think it shows that he's willing to make adjustments and change things up a little bit from what he's used to doing, and he's going to be successful because he's still going to do things the way he wants them done, and he's still going to stick to his his key policies or whatever that may be. But at the same time, he's also willing to make adjustments. He's openly said, he's like, I don't know what next year's going to look like. I may bring in 30 guys from the portal, and I may pay a whole bunch of people a whole lot of money. But also, I mean, the thing with the what are the boxes? On the back of their helmet. The QR codes.
the QR codes.
Yeah, with how innovative that was, and with him being a part of that conversation and him kind of coming up with that idea, from my understanding, that shows you how much he's come along.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think that they're going to benefit greatly from it. But the fact that he's a part of those conversations, and he's like, hey, how are we going to help Oklahoma State football be successful with this new way of doing things? He's open to do that.
This is going to end up being one of the most mature and oldest college football teams that you're ever going to see again in college football, because with the transfer portal, you're just not going to get an entire offensive line, a quarterback, a running back the caliber of Ollie Gordon, receivers like Brendan Presley, Nick Martin, Colin Oliver, all these guys, Corey Black, all these guys coming, Kendall Daniels, all coming back.
Yeah.
You're just not going to get that, because I know they love each other. They love Stillwater. They love the fact that they have a chance to win. All that's great, but all of that walks when you're talking about millions of dollars.
Yeah.
For most kids, I mean, think back to when, of course, this is a long time ago, but think back when you were 21 years old and somebody offers you $1 million. I mean, what are you going to say? I mean,
I hate where it's at, but at the same time, if I were to put myself in their shoes,
I
was a college athlete. I was a college athlete 4 years ago. So I completely understand. And if somebody's offering me a whole lot of money to leave and go somewhere else, as a college kid being brokered and heck, I'm going to take the money. And it's not anything to do with, man, I love the program, I love this, I love that, but I have a chance to benefit myself and set myself up for success in my future and like my family and things like that. That plays a big factor. And
of course,
that's the way that college athletics is going now. It's become a mini NFL.
It's a business decision.
It is, and you can be upset about it, but at the end of the day, if you put yourself in their shoes, you'd have done the same thing.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, this is the adults that screwed all this up, not the kids. I mean, the kids are going to take what you give them,
right?
And they deserve a lot of it. So, hey, moving on, the home schedule. You know, we talk about OU and Texas leaving and having the two big major conferences with the Big Ten and the SEC fine. I'm telling you, people, Big 12 ain't going away. It's going to have plenty of I've been saying this forever. It's going to have plenty of opportunities to be in the playoffs.
100%.
No doubt about it. It's going to be the best basketball conference. And there's going to be certain years where it's a better football conference than maybe the Big Ten is.
Sure.
Because Oklahoma State, Utah, Kansas State, and I think the Arizona schools are going to grow. Texas Tech won't stay down forever. Baylor, we know, has a ton of potential. I mean, Houston, maybe a sleeping giant, that kind of thing. So this is a conference that's going to remain very, very relevant. But having said that, you know, you're talking about what's the first year going to be like, being in the Big 12 without OU, that kind of thing. Well, how about this for home schedule, Chase? South Dakota State, which I'm fired up about because I watch every single FCS Division I AA playoff game. I watch every single minute of every single one of those games. It's literally my favorite football besides Oklahoma State to watch. I love FCS 1AA football. It's snowing in Montana, or it's negative 12 degrees in South Dakota State, and some dude's wearing short sleeve shirt and shorts, and it's just great football. And they're all 26-year-old kids that, you know, they're not getting paid to play and that kind of thing. But anyways, so it's South Dakota State, which to me, I'm way more fired up about than like an Arkansas State. Like if it's Arkansas State, I'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Or a Temple.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. And then so you have South Dakota State, which I'm really fired up to watch. Arkansas, then there's going to be more people for Oklahoma State at Tulsa than there will be Tulsa fans. So as an Oklahoma State fan, you can run over and watch them play at Tulsa. Utah.
Yeah.
You have Utah at home, and then you have West Virginia at home, and then you also have Arizona State and Texas Tech.
Yep.
That's a hell of a home schedule, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you know, I Utah is going to be a really fun game because that's the
man.
First
If
Big
Oklahoma
12
State
game.
can win all their non-cons, setting up that first Big 12 game, huh?
That's going to be awesome. That's going to be cool. And then you know, like their whole home schedule. I'm glad I'm a season ticket holder. I'll just put it that way because it's going to be a lot of good football and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Because you have that. West Virginia is always the team that if you let hang around, they're going to play you tight and they're going to play you close and could beat you.
Well, they beat her ass 2 years ago. That was one of the worst games of all time.
There was nothing good about that game. The weather sucks. I mean, it was terrible.
You were pretty pouty about that last year.
That
was one of the things that
it was so bad. That was the worst. That was the worst Oklahoma State football game I've ever experienced. It was terrible.
When does OSU ever not play a terrible game at TCU?
Yeah, I mean, never. I mean,
yeah, right.
Never.
I think Chris Carson's group went out and beat him one time, but gosh.
Yeah, it's never good. Never good. But Tech's the same way. Tech's always, it seems like they always kind of hang around, and even when they come to Stillwater, it's kind of a close game. And they've been picked early by some national media to potentially win the Big 12, which I don't think that's going to happen by any means. Year. But yeah, I mean, it's all hype, but it's not there. But I mean, I think that they have good players. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season.
Absolutely. I hit on it just a second ago, but I'm actually I just never thought this would happen. It scared me to death. I didn't think OSU could break with OU and still remain relevant and still remain a power. I just didn't. Mm-hmm. I'm so thankful to Brett Yormark that he figured out a way to do that. That OSU's in such a better position not having that. I mean, OU was like an albatross around OSU's neck. I mean, it was like OU just strangled Oklahoma State. I hate to say that because I hate OU, but it's an absolute fact.
Yeah. Not
being in the same conference with OU, not having to play them, and then getting to kind of carve our own path, it's like a breath of fresh air for me. I don't know why. I grew up in Stillwater. I'm a diehard Oklahoma State fan. I hate OU, but I'm just so glad we don't have to play them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and I think any reasonable person would say the exact same thing. Because what you can't deny...
So I'm not on an island there for a diehard OSU fan. Okay.
No, I mean, because what you can't deny is the fact that the University of Oklahoma has a phenomenal football program.
Yes.
You can't deny that, and the baseball team has been a lot better than what they've used to have been. Their basketball team sucks, but so does Oklahoma State's right now. So it is what it is. But that being said, you can't deny the fact that playing OU every year, yes, it's a blast to play them, but it's also like, oh my God! Like
worst week of the year for me. I'm so stressed. I don't even enjoy the game. Oh.
It sucks, but you avoid that, and you're in a position now to where it's like you don't have to worry about them until the playoff. And I pray and I hope that we do match up in a playoff game because I think that would be a blast. And I think that would grab a lot of attention. And if there is a way to make it happen, I bet you that a committee makes it happen because of how much revenue is gonna create. But
yeah, it'll definitely happen in a bowl.
Yeah, but see that what a fun environment to be in.
Yeah,
you're not in Norman, you're not in Stillwater, but you're playing in a really meaningful game to move on to a potential national championship.
Best part of that is that if OSU and OU play again, it's because OSU was OU's equal to set up that game. It wasn't because they're in the same conference. They have to play because it's the conference schedule. It means Oklahoma and Oklahoma State had the exact same season, and they got to the exact same endpoint, and now they're playing, which puts Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State's never going to play OU again unless they have been their equal. That's exciting to me. OU cannot. That little brother thing has gone away forever now.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
What do you think about the conference? We talked about OU and Texas leaving. You enter Utah, Colorado, Colorado, I think 2010 was the last time they played in Stillwater. And then you have the two Arizona schools, which I'm excited about because of baseball. Yeah. And I think they have a really large potential of growing out of Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati, which I wasn't as excited about. I think you know that. But what do you think about the conference?
I like it. I like it a lot. And if we're talking strictly football right now, look at what Arizona did last year. Yeah. That's not a pushover team. That's a good football team.
Good quarterback.
And he's back. And Arizona State is in a unique position to where they're not very good right now, but with where they are located, and I would guess that they have access to some money. I bet you that they turn the thing around pretty soon.
Yeah,
in terms of football. Central Florida is the same way. Orlando's a beautiful place. They're going to have access to those South Florida, Central Florida players that not any of the other Big 12 schools have access to. And they're also able to pull hey, man, we're in a Power 4 conference now. It's not like we're in Conference USA anymore. So they're going to have access to those guys. Houston they got the South Texas area. There's a lot of good athletes that go down there. And in basketball, they're really good. They're really good. So I think if you're looking at a football perspective, I think you bring in, Utah obviously has been really good traditionally the past few years. And I think if Deion stays at Colorado, I bet you that program continues to get better as well. So you're looking at a really good football conference. Baseball conference, you're looking at a really, really good baseball conference with Arizona State. Central Florida
Utah's had some good teams.
Yeah, Central Florida is really good. I think that, Houston's in an area to where they could turn their baseball program around a little bit. And basketball, I would argue that it's the best conference in all of sports, in all of college sports. So
mark my word, Cincinnati is going to get good in baseball. That's a budding giant in baseball. They have great facilities. They have so many great baseball players. Cincinnati is a town that loves their baseball. That's a very impressive program. I've known a couple of professional players for the Dodger system that have come from Cincinnati. I'm just telling you that. They were a good team last year. Yep. They came to Stillwater, didn't play good the weekend that they played OSU, but that's a program that's going to have really, really good baseball players in it. One last question. We'll see here, but are you for the Big 12 trying to make as much money as they possibly can by splitting up basketball and football?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I think that if they bring in Gonzaga or whoever the other school was, UConn, I think it's a huge mistake. I don't because nobody, and let's just be completely blunt, if you are in Oklahoma or Texas or you can't say Kansas, but if you're in Oklahoma or Texas, you don't give two rats butts about basketball. I don't care about basketball one bit, and I'll be open and say that. I care about football, and I care about
You don't
baseball.
care about it from the pocketbook perspective? If you separate your football and basketball deals and you're able to close that gap as far as money-wise from the SEC schools, that you don't like that?
No, because you're still going to have to split that money up. Some of that money is going to have to go to Gonzaga. Some of it's going to have to go to UConn. Just stick with what you got, because you still have Kansas, you still have Houston, you still have K-State, who's been off and on. Cincinnati. You've got Central Florida.
You're likely to add Louisville.
Yeah, exactly. In Florida, if you want to go there, you're looking at Florida State and possibly Clemson.
Arizona.
Yeah, if I am for bringing in a Florida State and a Clemson, I'm not for bringing in a UConn or a Gonzaga.
I'm against the grain. I would love to bring in Oregon State and Washington State. I think personally they're perfect fits from just the type of school they are, especially Washington State. And then Oregon State, I think, as a team, is a program that can be very similar to an Oklahoma State, a K-State, something like that is very competitive every year in football, and then every fourth or fifth year is really, really, really good. They've had a history of basketball, and then obviously we're a baseball heart. Yeah. Baseball would go to an absolute different level with Oregon State. So I would personally like to bring in those two. I think I'm probably on an island with that opinion, but that's where I'm at there.
I would rather bring in those two than UConn and Gonzaga. Yeah. I am anti bringing in those two schools. I just don't. It doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, if you're trying to blow basketball up for whatever the reason, sure, then do it. But you have to know who you're working with too, because if you know the states that you're located in, I wouldn't consider basketball being that high on the priority list. You know, if you're Oklahoma, Texas, and then I would argue even in Florida, and I don't know how Arizona feels about basketball, but it's warm there, and they produce good football players and really, really good baseball players. So I would say,
Arizona's been one of the best basketball programs in all of college basketball for a long time.
That tells you how much I watch basketball. I have no clue. I have no idea. But I mean, I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense, because eventually those schools are going to have to come in and bring their football programs over. And I saw something of being like not until 2031, but that's still 2031. You have UConn in your football schedule. Nobody wants that. Nobody cares.
Absolutely. Okay, man, let's get back to the football game Saturday. Last question. I said last question. I do that all the time. Last question usually means like it could be one more, it could be 11 more. Who knows, right? One of those type deals. So what are the keys to Saturday's game?
You just have to stick to your basics, man. You've got to run, you got to tackle, you got to read your keys, you got to play hard, and you can't take an opponent for granted, which I don't think they're going to do. I don't think that message. I think that message has been portrayed since, I don't know, whenever they started fall camps. Like, hey, fellas, we can't look past week 1. We can't, because if we do that, we're going to run into some trouble, because it's a great, great football program that's coming to Stillwater that wants to beat you, and they want to beat you bad. So I think that if you do those things, you take care of the football. And like I'll say it again, you've got to tackle. They did not tackle very well in the first few weeks of last year. They looked terrible. And one thing, if you've listened to Coach Gundy's press conferences, he has admitted, he was like, man, I was at fault last year. I was more concerned about the health of our team than I was being physical in practice. They've had more physical practices this fall, and I think that's going to play to their benefit.
Yeah, when you have older players, they kind of know how to be physical without hurting each other, that type of deal. So it all plays into that equation. So, hey, man, this is the first installment of our football podcast here at OState Daily with Chase Woodwiska. As we did each and every week last year, it grew and grew and grew last year, so hopefully it does that again this year. We've taken quite a bit of time off between baseball and football. That's okay, because, hey, we like baseball in the summer, and we like to do other things as well. But it is back. It is going to be every single week. Hopefully this transitions to Sunday morning, where we can release this like at noon on Sunday, the day after Oklahoma State plays. So look forward to that. So just make sure and check in with OState Daily. Most importantly, if you're watching this, turn on your notifications. That way, every time we release a new video, you'll be notified. And if it's something that you want to watch, you'll at least know what's there, and you can make that choice. So, Chase, I want to thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
For everybody out there, I want to thank you also for tuning in. And until next time, go Pokes.